Welcome. Tonight, we journey back nearly 2,000 years to step inside a Roman military camp and follow a soldier through a single day. This is not a tale of battles or conquest, but of the quiet rhythm of daily life. The drills, the duties, the meals, and the simple routines that bound the Legion together. As you settle down to rest, imagine the sounds of the ancient camp around you, the soft crackle of fires, the muffled footsteps of men on the move, and the low murmur of voices fading into the night. The soldiers you'll meet are not heroes in marble, but ordinary men carrying out the ordinary necessary work that kept Rome's empire alive. Together, we will begin at dawn, when the trumpet call rouses the Legion from sleep, and move gently through the hours of the day until the camp itself settles once more into silence. Let us begin. The camp is still, wrapped in the last hours of night. A thin mist clings to the wooden palisade, and the embers of cook fires glow faintly red in the darkness. In the rows of leather tents, the legionaries lie together, 8 men to a tent, their cloaks pulled over them against the cool air. Then, without warning, the silence breaks. A deep, resonant note carries across the camp. The call of the buccina, the curved brass trumpet. Its sound is not harsh, but steady, commanding, rolling across the tents like a tide. The men stir at once. This is the first signal of the day, and it cannot be ignored. Inside each contubernium, the rhythm of waking begins. Soldiers stretch tired limbs, rub their eyes, and push themselves upright. Cloaks are folded and set aside. Bedding of straw is quickly bundled, tidied, and stacked. For even in these humble tents, order is demanded. A centurion may walk past at any time, and no soldier wishes to be found in disorder. Sandals are tightened. The thick-soled caligae, strapped firmly around the ankles and calves, are pulled into place with practiced ease. Armor is inspected, leather thongs retied, buckles checked, and helmets polished with a quick rub of cloth. The weight of the equipment is familiar, like an extension of the body, and each soldier knows it must always be ready. Water is fetched from nearby barrels or streams, carried in jars and ladles. One man from each group steps outside into the damp air, filling vessels while his companions arrange the tent. The camp comes alive slowly. The soft sound of leather creaking, the scrape of metal on wet stone as a blade is checked, the murmur of men exchanging words in Latin and in the dialects of their homelands. The Roman army is vast, and its soldiers are drawn from many provinces. But in the camp they share a single rhythm. Before the drills and duties of the day begin, there is time for a small breakfast. Soldiers eat bread, baked the previous night by the camp bakers, dipped into water or wine to soften it. Sometimes olives, cheese, or dried figs are passed around. On fortunate days, strips of salted pork are shared, cooked quickly on skewers over the embers of the fire. It is not a feast, but it is enough to prepare for the hours ahead. Some men speak quietly, telling fragments of stories from home, or recalling a march on another campaign. Others eat in silence, eyes still heavy with sleep. A few take a moment for private gestures of devotion, touching a charm, whispering a prayer to Mars, Jupiter, or to the protective household spirits the lairs, whom many still believe guard them far from home. The centurion soon appears, his vine staff in hand, and the tone shifts at once. Jokes and chatter fade, and soldiers stand, equipment in hand, ready for inspection. Shields are checked for cracks, spears for straightness, helmets for polish. A soldier's equipment is his life, and neglect is not tolerated. The centurion's eyes are sharp, his words few, but every man feels their weight. Outside the tents, the wider camp is stirring. The optio, the centurion's assistant, calls out orders, directing men toward their duties. Smoke rises from the last of the fires, mingling with the damp air. Horses in the cavalry stables stamp and snort. Their grooms already at work, brushing coats and checking saddles. Beyond the walls of the camp, the fields are quiet. But inside, the Roman machine of order begins its daily work. When the trumpet sounds again, it is time to gather. Soldiers assemble in formation, rows upon rows, shields at their sides, helmets gleaming in the pale morning light. The discipline is evident in their silence, in the precision of their stance. They are no longer men waking from sleep, but legionaries of Rome, prepared to drill, to march, and to labor as one. The day has begun. The morning air grows warmer as the mist lifts from the camp. Sunlight filters through the palisade gates, casting long shadows across the packed earth of the campus, the open training ground set aside for drill. The trumpet has sounded again, and the legionaries, now fully armed, assemble in ranks with practiced precision. For the Roman army, training is not reserved for new recruits. Even seasoned soldiers, hardened by years of campaign, must drill each day. To be a legionary is to be a craftsman of war, and the craft must be sharpened constantly. The centurion steps forward, his vine staff in hand, the mark of his authority. His voice carries across the ranks, clear and commanding. At his signal, the soldiers begin the first exercise, marching. It may seem simple, but in Rome's armies, the march is sacred. The legion moves as one. Left, right, left, right. The line moves forward, then halts, then pivots as one body, wheeling neatly to face a new direction. The precision is not for show. On the battlefield, this discipline is life itself. Next comes the drill with weapons. Each soldier carries his scutum, the great curved shield of wood and leather, nearly as tall as his body. In his right hand, he grips the gladius, the short, double-edged sword. Yet today, he does not use a sharpened blade. Instead, he trains with a wooden sword, twice as heavy as the real thing, so that his arm grows strong and steady. The shield, too, is weighted for practice, heavier than the one he will take into battle. The Romans believed that a soldier who could fight well with heavy training weapons would fight with ease when the real moment came. The men spread out across the field. Before them stand wooden posts, known as palli. Each man takes his place before a post and begins. Step forward, shield thrust out to meet imagined enemy's blow. Sword strikes, short and sharp, aimed not in great sweeping arcs, but in the deadly precision of the thrust, toward the neck, the belly, the legs. Again and again, the motion is repeated. Shield forward, strike, withdraw, step, strike, withdraw. The rhythm becomes like a chant, steady and endless. Dust rises beneath their feet. Some men practice throwing the pilum, the Roman javelin. Designed with a long, slender iron shank, the pilum bends on impact, making it useless to the enemy who might try to throw it back. Soldiers hurl them at targets downfield, each throw measured for distance and accuracy. The iron points bite into the wooden boards, quivering with impact, and the men retrieve them to throw again. The centurions move among their men, correcting posture, adjusting grip, barking sharp words when sloppiness appears. But they also nod in approval when a strike is clean, or when a soldier shows stamina. Training is not punishment. It is preparation, and it forges unity. After weapon drill, there are physical exercises. Soldiers run in formation, sprinting short distances with their armor on. They leap ditches, scale small embankments, and lift heavy packs. Endurance is the measure of a Roman soldier. It is said that a man of the legions should be able to march 20 miles in a single day, carrying his armor, weapons, tools, and rations, nearly 30 kilograms of weight upon his back. Training ensures that when the day of march arrives, no man falters. There are other skills to practice as well. Some soldiers hone their aim with the slingshot, sending smooth stones whipping through the air to thud against wooden targets. Others practice with bows, their arrows hissing through the morning light. The cavalrymen ride in circles on the edge of the field, guiding their mounts with knees and reins, practicing charges with long spears. The sound of training fills the camp, the clatter of shields, the thud of wooden swords striking posts, the sharp calls of command, the heavy breathing of men at work. And yet, there is rhythm in it, almost like music. The Roman army, even in drill, is a chorus of movement and sound, each soldier a note in the larger song. When the final trumpet call sounds, the drill is over. The men lower their weapons and shields, sweat on their brows, dust clinging to their sandals. They are tired, but not exhausted. For the Romans did not believe in breaking their soldiers with training. They believed in building them, shaping them day by day into an unshakable machine. The legionaries return to their tents or gather water to wash the dust from their faces. The day is still young, and the duties of the camp are only beginning. When the morning drill ends, there is little time for rest. A Roman soldier's day is not defined only by training or battle, but by the endless work that keeps the army strong. In truth, the legion is as much a workforce as it is a fighting force. The trumpet signals the next duty, and the men gather in small groups, awaiting their assignments. Some will be ordered to repair the defensive walls of the camp. Others will dig ditches or carry timber for construction. A Roman camp is not a haphazard scattering of tents. It is a miniature city laid out with precision, rebuilt and dismantled each time the legion moves. Roads run straight through the center, crossing at right angles. At the heart lies the headquarters, the Principia, where the standards and records are kept. To maintain this order, constant labor is required. One group of men shoulders axes and spades, heading beyond the palisade to fell trees. They cut wood, not only for fortifications, but for fires, tools, and repairs. The sound of iron striking wood echoes through the midday air, punctuated by the crash of falling branches. Another group carries heavy baskets of earth, strengthening the ramparts that encircle the camp. Sweat runs down their backs as they work, but the discipline drilled into them each morning carries over into this labor. Even in digging, there is method, rhythm, and order. Others are assigned to more delicate tasks. Some repair sandals, sewing new leather straps to replace those worn down by long marches. A blacksmith's hammer rings out as he reshapes bent pilum heads and reforges nails for armor. The clink of iron on iron is steady, almost soothing. In another corner, a group of men grind grain into flour, turning heavy stone querns by hand, preparing the food that will feed the legion that evening. The officers walk among the men, but the mood is lighter than during drill. Here, conversation flows more freely. Soldiers talk as they work, sharing jokes or stories of home. A young recruit boasts of a girl he left behind in Italia, and the older veterans laugh, reminding him that she has probably married another by now. Another man hums a tune from his province, and soon several join in, their voices rising over the sound of labor. In the middle of the camp, near the rows of tents, the armorers and craftsmen gather. One soldier polishes his shield until it gleams in the sunlight. Another patches a tunic, needle flashing in his hands. A third, squatting on a stool, sharpens his gladius on a whetstone, the slow scrape of metal filling the air. Each task may seem small, but together they form the backbone of Roman order. Nothing is left to chance. Nothing allowed to decay. Around midday, the camp begins to stir with the smell of food. Cooking fires are lit, and soldiers gather in contubernia, groups of 8 men who share a tent and eat together as a family. They cook in simple pots, boiling porridge made from grain, sometimes mixing in beans, cheese, or whatever meat had been issued that day. The rations are not luxurious, but they are filling. Bread, olives, and dried fruit might appear, depending on supply. A jug of watered wine is passed around, the sour liquid cutting through the dust of the morning's work. As they eat, men tell stories. One veteran recounts a march across the Alps, his voice slow and deliberate, describing snow higher than a man's head, and nights so cold that even the fires could not keep them warm. The younger recruits listen with wide eyes, half in disbelief, half in admiration. Another soldier begins a tale of a skirmish on the frontier, exaggerating his own role, claiming he held off a dozen tribesmen with only his shield. His friends laugh, heckle, and demand to know why. If he was such a hero, he still bears a scar on his arm. The banter flows easily. Between bites of food, men carve small tokens from wood or bone, shaping figures of animals or simple dice for games. Others repair straps on their packs or mend broken tent ropes. In every corner of the camp, the work of sustaining the legion continues. But not all tasks belong to the common soldier. Some men are singled out for special duties. One may be assigned to carry water from a nearby stream, filling amphorae and hauling them back into camp. Another may guard the supply wagons at the rear, ensuring no thief or stray animal disturbs the stores. The most trusted soldiers might serve as runners, carrying messages from the centurions to the commander. Each duty, no matter how small, is part of the great machine that keeps Rome's army moving. As the sun rises higher in the sky, the pace of the camp begins to slow. After hours of labor and a meal, the men are permitted a short period of rest. Some recline in the shade of their tents, closing their eyes, the muffled sound of distant hammering lulling them. Others play dice games on the ground, the clatter of bones mixing with bursts of laughter and groans of defeat. A few write letters, scratching words onto wax tablets to send back home when a messenger is available. In these moments, the soldiers appear less like warriors of empire and more like ordinary men. They argue over games, they complain about rations, they share small jokes and songs. For all the discipline of the drill field, the midday lull reminds them that they are still human, still bound by the same needs for food, rest, and companionship. Soon, though, the trumpet will sound again, and duties will resume. The afternoon will bring new tasks, perhaps more training, perhaps preparation for the next march. But for now, the camp hums with quiet industry and simple camaraderie, the steady pulse of Rome's legions living out another ordinary day. The midday pause ends not with silence, but with the familiar call of the trumpet. The notes ripple through the camp, a reminder that leisure is short and duty is long. Men rise from their dice games, fold away their wax tablets, and set aside the scraps of food left in their bowls. Sandals are fastened, shields stacked once more, and the rhythm of Roman discipline resumes. The centurions walk among the tents, issuing orders. Each soldier knows that the afternoon will not be spent idly. The legion is a moving city, and a city must be maintained. The empire is built not only on battles, but on the unending labor of its soldiers. Some are ordered to the construction crews. They gather at the camp's edge, carrying tools, mattocks, spades, baskets for earth. The ramparts must be thickened, trenches deepened, and the wooden stakes along the palisade sharpened. A legion never allows its defenses to weaken, even in territory thought safe. Each camp, no matter how temporary, must be strong enough to withstand attack. Sweat drips from brows as men dig in rhythm, passing heavy baskets of soil hand to hand, piling it high against the inner wall. Others are assigned to road duty. For Rome, roads are lifelines. They allow legions to march swiftly, supplies to flow steadily, and messages to reach the farthest provinces. Just beyond the palisade, a group of soldiers works to flatten the earth, laying down stones in careful order. The process is slow, but with each layer of gravel and packed soil, another stretch of road is secured for Rome. The soldiers know that while the glory of roads will be remembered in stone, the labor of building them falls on their shoulders. Inside the camp, the smiths and armorers return to their forges. Sparks fly as hammers ring on iron, shaping pilum heads and sword blades, straightening bent nails, and forging links for chainmail. Apprentices pump the bellows, feeding the flames. The steady clang of iron on iron becomes the heartbeat of the camp. A group of soldiers is tasked with tending the animals. Horses belonging to the cavalry are brushed, watered, and walked. Pack mules, weary from carrying supplies, are fed and their loads checked. Rome's armies march not only on their own legs, but on the backs of beasts. And so their care is as important as the sharpening of swords. Others are given guard duty. At each gate, pairs of soldiers take up position, their shields resting against their legs, eyes scanning the horizon. They do not expect trouble today, but the discipline of vigilance is drilled into them. A Roman soldier does not assume safety. He enforces it. There are also those assigned to scouting and patrolling beyond the walls. Small groups slip out of the gates, their armor lighter than usual, carrying spears and short bows. They move through the countryside, checking for signs of movement, watching the roads, ensuring that no enemy approaches unseen. When they return, dusty and sunburned, they will report to the centurions, who in turn will inform the commanders. Back within the camp, the standard bearer and a chosen few tend to the legion's most sacred objects, the signa, the standards carried into battle. These are not mere poles of wood and metal. They are symbols of the legion's soul. Each is cleaned, polished, and inspected, for to lose a standard in combat is a disgrace no soldier could bear. The men who tend them do so with reverence, aware that they hold the honor of thousands in their hands. As the afternoon stretches on, the camp bustles with this constant activity. There is no single task, no single rhythm, but dozens at once. The hammer of the smith, the scrape of spades, the low calls of men working in teams, the distant bray of a mule. All of it blends together into the steady hum of an army at work. Yet even within this order, there are moments of humanity. A soldier pauses from digging to wipe his brow and exchange a grin with his comrade. A blacksmith cracks a joke, and the apprentices laugh even as they pump the bellows harder. Two guards at the gate murmur about their homes, one speaking of vineyards in Gaul, the other of olive groves in Hispania. Though far from their provinces, they carry those places with them in memory, speaking them aloud as if the words themselves kept the distance shorter. Occasionally, the centurions pass by, their vine staffs tapping the ground as they inspect the work. A sharp word here, a nod of approval there, and the men straighten their backs or quicken their pace. But even the stern centurions know that labor cannot be driven endlessly. They pace the work, ensuring it continues without breaking the men's strength. By mid-afternoon, the sun has reached its height. The camp smells of dust, iron, and sweat. The day still has many hours left, but already the ground has been reshaped. Tools have been repaired, and roads stretched farther into the landscape. Rome's empire expands not in sudden bursts, but in steady increments. Each day, leaving behind another small mark of its presence. At last, another trumpet sounds. The signal is not for drill, nor for alarm, but to mark the change of duties. The men set down their tools, wipe their faces, and return to their tents or to the shade of the Principia. The hardest labor of the day is done. What follows is quieter, though no less essential. The routines of rest, preparation, and the small freedoms allowed within the walls of the Legion's camp. For now, the afternoon gives way slowly toward evening, and the soldiers look forward to food, to conversation, and to the few hours when they may live not as Rome's instrument, but simply as men. sharp edge of labor softens as the afternoon wears on. The heaviest work is complete. The fortifications strengthened, the roads extended, the tools repaired. Once again, the trumpet sounds. But this call carries no urgency. It signals a change in rhythm. The Legion may be a machine in battle, but it is also a community. And in the slower hours of the day, that humanity has its place. Some soldiers seek rest first. They return to their tents, stretching out on simple bedding of straw and woolen blankets. The faint sounds of the camp still reach them. The distant hammer of the blacksmith, the low call of animals, the chatter of their comrades. But within the canvas walls, the noise fades. A man might lie back, hands folded behind his head, eyes half closed. He knows another trumpet will sound soon enough. But for a moment, the body and mind are allowed to ease. Others, less inclined to sleep, gather in groups for games. Dice are the most common, carved from bone or ivory, their edges worn smooth by many hands. Men squat in a circle on the ground, tossing dice onto a flat board or the packed earth, groaning at poor throws, laughing at bold wins. Wagers are small. A few coins, a piece of bread, perhaps a share of wine. Yet the thrill is real, and the banter that flows around the circle is a reminder of the soldier's need for play as much as for discipline. Not all games are of chance. Some soldiers carve small pieces of wood or stone, arranging them on boards scratched into the dirt, to play strategy games not unlike drafts. The moves are slow and thoughtful, with spectators leaning in to murmur suggestions or mock a foolish choice. Here, too, Rome's order is reflected. Even in leisure, men test their wits, practicing the art of outmaneuvering an opponent. Elsewhere, men gather to bathe. Though far from the great baths of Rome, even a temporary camp has its routines of cleanliness. Buckets of water are drawn from a stream or well, and soldiers wash away the dust of the day. They scrub skin with rough cloth, rinse their hair, and laugh as the cold water shocks them awake. In larger camps, simple bathhouses may be built, with heated water and a warm chamber to relax in, though luxury is rare on campaign. Still, the act of washing is more than hygiene. It is refreshment, a reset of body and spirit. Those less drawn to games or bathing turn to craft and creativity. A soldier whittles a small figure from a scrap of wood, the shape of a bird, slowly emerging beneath his knife. Another fashions dice from animal bone, carefully carving the dots. A third scratches designs into a piece of leather, decorating the strap of his pack. These small acts of making carry no official purpose, yet they fill the hours with quiet focus. In one tent, a man pulls out a wax tablet and stylus, writing a letter to his family. He leans over the tablet, tongue caught between his teeth in concentration, etching words into the smooth surface. News of his health, of the march, of the places he has seen. He spares no detail about hardship, but he includes a joke, a memory of home, something to make his mother smile when the letter finally reaches her hands. Around him, his tent mates tease, asking if he is writing to a sweetheart instead. He shakes his head with a grin, but their laughter follows him. As the camp hums with these small freedoms, conversations rise and fall. Veterans share stories of past campaigns. One man describes a battle in Gaul, his hands moving as he paints the scene. The clash of shields, the roar of enemies, the Order of the Legions. Younger soldiers listen, wide-eyed, learning not only of courage, but of caution. Another man, older still, speaks of quieter things. The long marches through dust, the patience needed when no enemy appeared for weeks, the steady grind of work that made the victories possible. Not all tales are serious. Soldiers are quick to jest, to tease each other, to laugh at mishaps from the morning drill. A recruit who tripped during the march is mimicked by his comrades, their exaggerated stumbling, sending the group into laughter. Even the centurion, passing by, hides a smile at the good humor, though he reminds them sharply to keep their shields cleaner than their jokes. In these moments, the Legion feels less like a machine and more like a family, forged not by blood, but by shared hardship, shared duty, and the small joys that lighten the burden. As the afternoon sun begins its slow descent, the camp grows quieter again. The dice games end. The boards are brushed clean, the wax tablets put away. Men stretch and yawn, turning their thoughts toward the next trumpet call. Soon, the duties of the evening will arrive. The preparation of food, the lighting of fires, the setting of guards. But for a little while longer, the camp has breathed, and the soldiers within it have remembered that they are men as well as warriors. The shadows grow longer as the afternoon edges toward evening. The heat of the day softens, and with it, the pace of the camp begins to shift. Yet before the soldiers can think of food or fires, there is one more duty that must always come first: inspection. The trumpet call echoes across the tents, sharper than the relaxed notes of the midday pause. Soldiers rise once more, dusting themselves off, setting aside the dice or carvings, straightening their tunics. Weapons are gathered, shields lifted, helmets adjusted. Even in the quiet of camp, appearance and order are never neglected. The centurions move through the ranks, vine staffs in hand. Their eyes sweep over the soldiers, sharp and unyielding. They look for dirt on a shield, a strap left untied, a blade not sharpened. To the men, it can feel like scrutiny without end. But to the centurions, it is necessity. Rome does not wait for battle to prepare. Every day, every moment is preparation. One soldier stands stiffly as his gladius is examined. The centurion draws the blade from its scabbard, runs a thumb along the edge, and nods. "Good," he mutters before moving on. Another soldier, slower in polishing his armor, receives a sharp rap on the shoulder with the vine staff and a curt command to see it cleaned properly before nightfall. There is no malice in the rebuke, only the reminder that negligence, no matter how small, could mean disaster in the field. The signifer, bearer of the standard, stands apart, his duty heavier than most. His equipment is checked with particular care, for the loss of a standard in combat is not just shame, but catastrophe. The soldiers around him watch with quiet respect, for they know that the standard is more than wood and metal. It is the spirit of their legion, the mark under which they march and fight. After weapons and armor come the packs. Each man's burden is inspected to ensure that nothing is missing. A Roman soldier is expected to carry his world upon his back: spare clothing, tools for digging, a cloak, rations, and sometimes even pieces of timber for camp construction. The pack is heavy, nearly 30 kilograms, And yet, it is also freedom. With it, the Legion can move swiftly, self-sufficient, ready to build a camp wherever they stop. To forget or lose an item is to weaken the whole. Once the inspections are complete, the orders for the next day are read aloud. Officers gather near the Principia, the headquarters tent, and receive the commands from the tribunes. These instructions ripple outward through the centurions, who pass them to their men. Tomorrow's march is announced. How far? Which direction? What terrain to expect? If battle is anticipated, the soldiers will know it here. If not, they still listen carefully, for even the simplest march can bring hardship. The men absorb the news quietly, some nodding, others exchanging glances. They are trained not to question orders, but still, they speculate among themselves. Will the road be rocky? Will there be a river to cross? Will supplies reach them in time? Their voices remain low, respectful, but the anticipation is real. As the officers finish, another duty unfolds: the assigning of guard shifts for the night. No Roman camp is ever left unguarded. Even deep in Roman territory, vigilance is law. The night watch will be divided into segments, each marked by the sounding of the trumpet and the turning of the water clock. Soldiers listen as names are called. Some groan quietly at being chosen for the early hours, when sleep has barely begun, while others accept their later shifts with grim amusement. Yet all know their duty. When the hour comes, they will stand at their post, eyes sharp in the darkness, shields and spears at hand. With inspections complete and orders given, the camp exhales. The men return to their tents, setting aside their weapons, loosening belts, stretching shoulders stiff from drill and labor. The strict eye of the centurions eases, and conversation begins to flow again. A man complains about his pack being too heavy. Another jokes about drawing the short straw for night watch. Laughter mingles with the clang of armor being set down, and the camp takes on a lighter rhythm once more. The sun dips lower now, casting the tents in long shadows, gilding the wooden palisades in orange light. Fires are being prepared in every contubernium. Soon, the smell of smoke will drift across the camp, mingling with the scent of cooking grain and meat. The hardest work of the day is behind them, and ahead lies food, companionship, and the steady quiet of evening. But even as the men look forward to their meal, the habits of inspection and order linger. Shields lean neatly in rows, swords lie ready in their scabbards, and the packs are stacked where they can be seized at a moment's notice. The camp may relax, but it never sleeps entirely. Rome's strength lies not in sudden bursts of courage, but in the discipline that weaves itself through every moment, binding thousands of men into one body, one purpose. The trumpet has not yet sounded for supper, but the camp is ready, and the soldiers wait, their thoughts already turning to the warmth of firelight and the comfort of food shared with comrades. As the last light of the sun fades, the trumpet sounds once more. This time, it is not for drill or inspection, but for supper. Relief spreads through the camp like a wave. The day's labor is done, and the men turn eagerly to their fires. Each contubernium, the small band of 8 soldiers who share a tent, gathers around its hearth, A clay pot is set over the flames, grain is poured in, and water is added. The soldiers stir it patiently, waiting as the mixture thickens into the familiar porridge they call pulse. Sometimes they flavor it with salt or herbs, perhaps a scrap of bacon or cheese if fortune has been kind. Meat is rare, but when it appears, the mood of the whole tent lifts. The smell of wood smoke and boiling grain drifts through the rows of tents. Crackling fires cast flickering light on weary faces, softening the hard lines carved by sun and drill. Here, in the glow of evening, the Legion seems less a machine of war and more a gathering of men. They eat from wooden bowls, passing bread between them, drinking watered wine from shared cups. Conversation rises and falls. Stories from distant provinces, jokes about the day's work, quiet grumbling about officers. Laughter breaks out, and for a little while, discipline relaxes. Beyond the warmth of each fire, the night creeps in. Guards take their posts along the ramparts. But within the camp, the sounds are gentle. The low murmur of voices, the clatter of bowls, the comforting hiss of firewood. Supper is more than food. It is a reminder that, even in the heart of an army, men are bound together not only by orders, but by the simple act of sharing a meal. With supper finished and bowls set aside, the camp settles into a slower rhythm. Fires continue to burn, but their flames are lower now, casting long shadows across the tents. The soldiers shift into the night's final duties. The guard roster is read aloud. Every soldier takes a turn at watch. For the safety of the Legion depends on alert eyes and steady ears. Tonight, some rise reluctantly, fastening their belts and taking up shields and spears before making their way to the ramparts. Others, spared until later, stretch out on their bedding, grateful for an hour or two of rest. Along the wooden walls, sentries pace in silence. They listen for any sound beyond the ditch. A rustle in the grass, the distant bark of a dog, the call of a night bird. Most nights pass quietly, and tonight seems no different. Still, discipline demands vigilance. A moment's lapse could mean disaster, and the penalties for neglect are severe. Inside the camp, the atmosphere softens. Soldiers gather their cloaks, spreading them over straw-filled mattresses, or simply lying close to the fire. The weariness of the day weighs heavily now. Conversation fades, broken only by the occasional cough, the low hum of a tune, or the crackle of a log collapsing in the flames. The air is cooler, carrying the smell of smoke and damp earth. Beyond the camp, the world feels vast and silent, but within its walls, order remains. Even in sleep, the Legion is a body of many parts, each man playing his role. Some keep watch, some rest, and together they carry the weight of empire through the night. The last voices fade, and the camp sinks deeper into quiet. The fires burn low, glowing red at their hearts, sending only the faintest smoke into the cool night air. Most of the soldiers are lying down now, their cloaks drawn around them, their breathing slow and heavy after the long day. The watch continues at the ramparts, but even the footsteps of the guards are muffled, softened by the dark. They move with care, speaking only in whispers if they speak at all, so as not to disturb the rest of their comrades. Beyond the walls, the land lies still. A nightbird calls, and somewhere in the distance, a stream runs faintly, steady and unbroken. Within the tents, the men are gathered close together, as they always are. 8 to a tent, sharing warmth and space. They find rest and familiarity. Some drift quickly into dreams, others lie awake a little longer, listening to the quiet crackle of the fire outside or the faint shuffle of a guard passing by. It is in these hours, between the end of one day and the beginning of the next, that the Legion feels most human. No drills, no orders, no marches, only men lying side by side, bound together by the life they lead. Slowly, the camp becomes almost indistinguishable from the night itself. The glow of embers fades, the voices are gone, and the steady rhythm of sleep carries through every tent. Tomorrow, the trumpet will sound again, and the cycle of duties will begin anew. But for now, there is only stillness. And so ends the day in the life of a Roman soldier.